Hi, folks. My name's Tom. You're watching Rant District. Today, I want to talk about a press release that Numero Group put out a few days ago. Numero Group is a record label in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. They do a lot of reissues, a lot of compilations of sort of lost or unearthed eclectic music. Uh, some of it's eclectic, some of it's long lost soul, some punk or shoegaze. They put out vinyl, CDs, MP3s. I've got a couple of releases from them. They got Jimmy Carter and Dallas County Green. Summer Brings the Sunshine. It's a country record. It's outstanding. Originals of this go for ridiculous money on Discogs, and there's not a whole lot of them out there. And it's only available on vinyl, to my knowledge, not CD, not download. So, of course, I got the vinyl version. You've got CD box set, Orc Records, New York, New York. It's Terry Orc, founder of Orc Records, and cuts from acts from his label and the CBGB era of New York City punk. It's fantastic. And it comes with a nice fat booklet. It's also available on vinyl. I just went with the CD version. And same thing goes for the Husker Du box set. I've got it on CD, Savage Young Do. Also has this nice fat book with all the pictures and the writing in it. Excellent stuff. Numero Group tends to use United Record Pressing to press their vinyl. I don't really care for United. I've had some bad pressings out of there. So generally speaking, when Numero puts something out that I want, if it's on CD, I'll buy the CD. If it's only on vinyl or MP3, I grab the vinyl. Anyway, so a couple of days ago, Numero put out a press release regarding its position on Record Store Day. As of today, Record Store Day 2018 is happening 3 days from now on Saturday the 21st. I noticed that this press release was mentioned by a few music outlets. I don't know why I did that. They're actually music outlets, so it's not an air quote thing. But it was mentioned by a few music outlets. But from the ones that I could find and the ones that I read, it was just a statement of, here's what Numero said, and nobody took a position on it. Nobody said, yeah, Numero is right or Numero is wrong, which is odd for a site that will often talk about music and whether it likes it or not. And it's really not that odd because these music outlets have to stay in the good graces of the record companies, especially the major ones, and that's kind of what Record Store Day is about. So anyway, I'm going to read. It's essentially a 4-paragraph statement by Numero. I'm going to read each paragraph and then talk about it. Here's the first paragraph.
Numero Files. Over the past decade, we've had an on-again, off-again relationship with Record Store Day. What started off as a clever way to support independent shops during a physical and sonic recession has blown up into an unwieldy grip and bitch fest. Lines, fights, flippers, backed up pressing plants, stock shorts, stocking and pricing at 4 a.m. the morning of, and that inevitable markdown bin filled with all manner of wasted petroleum and bad ideas. If you've ever walked into a record store on the third Saturday in April, you know the drag of which we speak. The only people who are really happy are the major record companies who continue to prop the whole charade up with overpriced singles and needless pick discs. The stores make their nut and keep the lights on for another year. Rinse and repeat.
All right, so let's examine a couple of key points here that are brought up. Flippers. I don't really care about flippers. I'm a capitalist guy. The market dictates the price on things. If people want to pay a crazy price for something that somebody else has, so be it. Flippers, I don't care. I don't do it. I don't begrudge people who do it. It doesn't matter. Backed up pressing plants. this is a big deal. Because there's such a ton of vinyl press for Record Store Day. It backs up record plants around the world, and I'm postulating here because I buy a fair amount of new releases from small bands and new bands. But the major labels that are the ones having their records pressed for Record Store Day, which is the overwhelming majority of the stuff you're buying on Record Store Day, they're going to have their pick of who they have press their records. A major pressing plant in turn is not going to give poorly pressed records to a Sony or a Warner or whoever to sell on Record Store Day. They could not afford to piss off a really big business customer of theirs. So, the smaller bands and smaller labels trying to get their records pressed, number one, they're getting impressed at clearly inferior record pressing plants. There's new record pressing plants opening all the time. A lot of small places, and there's just not enough people out there who excel at knowing how to press records and adjusting for temperature and humidity and all the different factors that go into pressing a record in a quality manner. They just don't have the expertise. So you're getting a lot of the smaller bands and smaller labels, in my opinion, are selling poorly pressed vinyl over a lack of choice. And if you're a small band, that's out touring, you need to have merchandise to sell with you, on your tour. And if you've got this record that's come out, in April, and you have to wait till October until the vinyl is pressed, that's a big gap, and for a label, it's a big cash outlay for 6 months or whatever before you can even get that product in your hand to sell. For a band having merchandise on hand to sell at shows, a lot of times it means gas money getting to the next show. It can mean stay in a hotel instead of sleeping in a van before the next gig. The smaller bands, the indie bands, and the bands that are most likely your local bands are not benefiting from Record Store Day. And I think you have to decide for yourself, is that something that you want to support? Another point that was made, the only people who are really happy are the major record companies who continue to prop the whole charade up with overpriced singles and needless pick discs. I feel like that was intended to be dick pics because it's kind of like the same value, a lot of these things. In my opinion, the value is just not there. The store one point that kind of is in favor of Record Store Day that is made at the end of this first paragraph. The stores make their nut and keep their lights on for another year. And I do see value in that, and I understand that's a good point. And I don't own a record store, so I can't tell you if I was in a record store owner's shoes. I don't think I would support Record Store Day, but I don't know. My dog's whining at the terrorist outside. But I don't, I would hope I would be financially able to tell Record Store Day to go elsewhere rather than in my store. And I would hope that I would not be putting myself out of business by doing that. But I don't have that point of view because I'm not in a record store owner's shoes. All right, let's take a look at the next paragraph.
It would be a lie to say that Numero has not benefited from this hysteria, as stores have generously brought in our left field wares with full knowledge that they wouldn't be the must-buy of the day. We've always strived to manufacture records that would find their audience well after the shop closed. WTNG was panned so hard upon issue, and for years copies sat sealed in RSD leftover bins. Store owners called it our worst ever release. Some returned them, and more than a few times, while trawling the used and cutout bins looking to fill out our own collections and future compilations, bought heavily discounted, still sealed copies to later resell for sub-zero profit. But through the lens of time, the album has become a classic in the Sausalito cum yacht school of mixes. Songs by Caroline Payton, Greenflow, Timothy, Archie James Kavanaugh have soundtracked High Maintenance, Broad City, and Magic Mike. Whatever sweat was spilled by disgruntled shop owners over those unsold albums has been forgotten.
Basically, WTNG, it's stylized to make it look like a Numero group radio station. It's a soft rock and soul compilation. It's a little cheesy for me. I've listened to it online. There's a song or two that's okay. It didn't grab me. It's not enough for me to want to buy it. I guess apparently it has shown up in a couple of movies. If it showed up in Magic Mike, I'm sure my better half probably is familiar with the song and enjoys it for reasons that may not be related to the song. Anyway, let's get on to the third paragraph.
For the sake of argument, go ahead and count the number of classic records issued on Record Store Day. We'll wait. Are there more than a dozen? Unlikely, because at its core, Record Store Day is a marketing event designed to generate traffic by pushing manufactured rarities that scrape off the chaff from deluxe edition CD bonus material and flaunt their first time on wax status while remaining no less unessential. Not a day to celebrate the best this backwards industry has to offer, and that's something we just can't hang with. Record stores need customers that understand that every day is Record Store Day, and record labels need to create crackerjack titles that, in the words of Ahmet Ertegun, move the listener to such an extent that he or she has to get up out of bed, walk 10 blocks, borrow $20 from a friend, and run to an all-night shop to buy the record to hear it again.
All right, so the point is made that at its core, Record Store Day is a marketing event designed to push traffic by pushing manufactured rarities. That's a big point. That's a big phrase right there, manufactured rarities. They scrape off the chaff from deluxe edition CD bonus material and flaunt them as first time on wax, while remaining no less unessential. I look at the titles that are out there, and it's just, I look at it as like each year it gets worse and worse. It's just like the major labels going, well, what else do we have in our catalog that we can push off on these people and make it a manufactured rarity, make it so that it's a limited edition of X amount of records, a small amount, so that people will want these badly and buy them, and like, because if you can't sell on the quality of something, then sell on the rarity of it, and that's what you find on Record Store Day. It's a lot of, in my opinion, crap, but it's limited edition. So people who have FOMO, fear of missing out, they just grab it. They grab it and go. It's probably been 4 or 5 years, maybe 4 years, since I've participated in Record Store Day. I can't recall. I know I've got a few pieces of Record Store Day vinyl in my collection, and I can't think of anything that's essential. Maybe the Johnny Cash, that first album that he ever made on Sun Records. It's on blue vinyl. I like it because it's a clean copy, because it's like a 1957 or so record originally, and finding one that's not, doesn't sound like static is a tough. That's a tough find. Let's go on to the last paragraph.
This week, we're issuing 2 timeless records on the industry-standardized Friday release date. They're not punitively or intentionally limited, nor are they expensive. They weren't born by poring over an Excel document that had pre-approved titles from the sales department. We encourage you to buy them from an independent retailer and hope these folks left some room in the budget to bring a couple in. If not, you can get them from us. Folks in Chicagoland will be happy to know that our annual pop-up store will happen on Saturday, April 21st, with an assortment of new and used records, the debut issue of our new magazine, periodical Numerical, our usual array of miscellaneous weirdness, and a handful of other surprises. Borrow $20 if you have to.
All right, so Numero Group says they've got 2 new releases that they're going to put out on Friday, which is now the new release day for new records. Used to be on Tuesdays, now it's on Friday. They stress that they're not going to punitively or intentionally limit them, nor they're going to make them expensive. And I live in Portland, Oregon, and when I've gone to Record Store Day, the prices of a record compared to any other like new release, it's high. It's expensive. It's capitalism, but it's higher than it should be, in my opinion. And continuing about the 2 new releases that Numero are putting out, I don't recall what they are off the top of my head. I know that neither one really grabbed me. The comment is made that they weren't born by poring over an Excel document that had pre-approved titles from the sales department. And I think that's what you're seeing here. Like the major labels are going through their back catalog, and whoever the number crunchers are, that they're saying, all right, here's the titles we think we can move that we haven't moved recently, so let's do these, and it may be in this amount. And the whole thing is forced. It's ham-fisted. Now, everything that I'm talking about here, this is my opinion. We all listen to different music. We all collect differently, and that's good and that's healthy. And while my attitude towards my opinion on Record Store Day is meant to be my opinion, I think my opinion has value, and I'm not trying to say that my opinion should be your opinion, or that the music I listen to should be the music you listen to, or the way that I collect, or I clean my records, or the way I store my records. This is the way that you should do it. We're all unique individuals, and that's good and that's healthy. But what I would like you to do is, this is meant to be a conversation, and if you have your comments about Record Store Day, it's not something I participate in anymore. I haven't for several years. I don't think it's overall positive for music, but I do see how it's a positive for actual record stores, and making enough money in one day to maybe pay the rent for the rest of the year. So anyway, this is meant to be a conversation. Leave some comments, and if you leave a comment saying you are in favor of Record Store Day, maybe point out something in the Numero press release that you think should be debunked or that is incorrect. If you find that anything in that, I would actually ask you, please tell me if you see anything at all that's incorrect in that Numero Group press release, because I don't think there's anything. I think they really nailed it. Anyway, that's all I got. Record Store Day is not for me, although it may be for you. However, talking specifically about this Numero Group press release that I've read through and shown here, if there's anything that you think is inaccurate that Numero Group has said, please leave a note in the comments. I'd like to know. Thanks for watching.